Hi, Walt Gigandit here, and it's day 2 of making a hickory bow from a green piece of tree that I just cut down yesterday. What I've done is I've thinned this down to just about an inch thick. Might be a little bit more or a little less, but it's not exact. What I've done is I've flattened the belly of this so it's in pretty much an even plane all the way down. Now what I've done is I've marked where the handle of the bow is going to be. Right here is the center. This would be the top part. My hand would fit right here on the handle. Okay, so this is going to be my handle. This is the bottom of my handle. This is the top of my handle. How I found that is I took a piece of cordage, like so, and I measured it. Cordage is a little bit short, so I couldn't go quite to the top. I left, but this is from here to here. There's that piece of cordage on there. So I left about an inch at the top and an inch at the bottom. Fold it in half, put it back where it was, and then I measured it, and it comes right to that little mark that my thumb is on that I marked for the center of my bow. 1 finger above, 3 fingers below. This is the bottom limb. So the bottom limb is going to be 2 fingers shorter than the top limb. That's why I make the bottom limb. The bottom part of the tree is always the toughest part, so that's why I make it be the bottom of my bow. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to scrape the back of my bow, get this high crown off of it. If it's a high crown, that's where all the tension is carried. I'm going to distribute that tension evenly all the way across, almost all the way across the back of my bow. Next step is I'm going to work the back of my bow, which is still a rounded part. What I'm going to do is going to put my knife blade on there and I'm going to scrape this. I've allowed a day for the wood to begin drying so it peels off quite nicely. I'm going to scrape this about 3/4 of the distance across the bow. Not entirely down to what I want, but I want this to be thinned down. And you go 2 directions. When it starts to make a little catch, a little splinter lifts up, you change directions and go the other way. What I have to do is I have to get rid of the outer cambium layer of this, and this is all great fire starter material here. So I'll save that aside because I'm going to be needing a fire. So what I'm going to do is I'm scraping this down, changing my angle when it catches. If there's a little change in my angle, side to side, side straight, side side. Usually 1, 2, 3. As this wood gets more dry, it's going to be harder to scrape. So you want to do your work while the wood is still moist. But if this was completely soaked, I would have a hard time scraping this like this yesterday because it was just so soaked. But today I can feel there's moisture in it, but it's not wet. So what I did with this yesterday is I took this, left it in the woods, put it up about 8 feet in a tree, just slid it into a fork in a branch and left it up there. Get it above ground level. The high humidity is going to be from about chin height down to the ground. There's high humidity and things don't dry as quickly. So if I can get it above that, it helps tremendously for drying. I knew it wasn't going to rain, so I left it out. If it was going to rain, obviously I would have put it under cover. Got the top end of my bow thinned down. The back side of it, I've scraped this so it's nice. It may not be entirely down to 1 ring. That doesn't matter yet because I have plenty of time to finish this. If you want it to be down to 1 continuous ring or create a weak spot, I'll explain that later. What I'm looking to do now, I've looked down the bow and I scraped a line from the tip all the way to the center. So that's about where the center of my scrape is going to be as I scrape the lower limb of my bow, and I'm going to do that right now. Knife always goes in the sheath when I'm not using it. It's part of safety. And just drawing and pushing. Changing the angle. I pull one direction and push the other, and it keeps the chattering to a minimum. If your knife is not sharp enough, you're going to have misery. So it's got to go back to my knife sharpening video, the first one that I did. then review that and sharpen your knife so it is razor sharp. If it's not real sharp, you're gonna have blisters on your hands, so you're not gonna have a good time. If the tool is sharp, you end up with nice long strips, and that's what you're looking for. Pull, push. I'm teaching you how to make a bow with minimal tools. You don't need a draw knife, and you don't need a shaving horse, and you don't need all of these things. All you need is you can make the whole thing with a knife. It's simple. Push, pull, push, pull. There's an old branch from the tree that was down in here. It makes a little chatter over it, so these are spots that you're gonna have to be a little more careful. I try not to have knots in the back of my bow, or no limbs coming out. You can do it. For your first bow, don't choose something like that. This is a little bit of a harder piece of wood. It's not nice and straight, but it's good enough. It'll make a bow, and I'm teaching you that you don't need a perfect piece of wood to make a nice bow. My thumbs are on the back side pushing, and I'm just doing a pinch, and I have a nice grip on the handle. My thumbs are just like this on the back side, giving me my pressure, and there's a slight angle. There's an angle this way and this way and this way and this way as I'm pulling. Besides I'm doing this. You'll have to work with it, but in a short time you'll have that technique. I will tell you this, you can make your first bow and you'll be, wow, I made a bow, this is the greatest. And you won't remember the techniques. In 6 months you won't remember the techniques because you didn't make a second bow. You don't have to make huge bows. You can make model bows. You can make a nice little bow like this. You can make a nice little snap bow. But if you don't make 3 bows, all the techniques they go out of your brain because your mind holds on to things that we use. And if I'm not using the skill, it starts to go. People are really good with computers today because they're doing it every day. That's the difference. But I'm teaching you fun skills. There's no blisters on my hands. I'm working with the tool. I'm not forcing anything. And that's what I want you to do. If it's sharp, it doesn't take much pressure. If it's dull, holy crap, and you're gonna have your hands all wore out. If you have really soft hands, wear gloves. Once I get the bow finished, I'll teach you to shoot it. It's about doing it, just like all of these skills, it's about doing the exact same thing over and over again. I'm not just doing this. My arm's gonna get really tired. I'm using my body. My body's in, my body's out. My body's in, my body's out. This is how you conserve energy and you're not beating yourself up. If you're using all your body weight, you don't need to be super strong. You need to be fit, but you don't need to be super strong. And then we'll go into the next part, which is going to be fire. Okay, I've thinned off both limbs. They're almost to their finished state on the back side. This is the back. The belly still needs a lot more work. As you can see, there's a little knot here. This would be a problem if this old dead branch knot was sticking around on the side of it because it creates a weak spot for it to crack. As long as it's in the center part of the limb, it's not much of a problem. For a beginner, I'm just showing you that there's how to work around problems in it. For a beginner, don't choose something that has a knot that close to the edge because you're gonna, if you decide, well, I don't like this little bump that sticks out here, and take it off, then you're bringing it right into that little knot, and your bow's gonna crack. Like I said, this wood was not perfect. There's a knot right here. You had a major damage to it that ran all the way down the side here. I was able to cut all that out and save it, but this was all dead brown, as dark as this. You know, it's just no strength left in it. If I wasn't able to get that out, I would have had to do another shoot. So what I have is a limb that is ready to be dried more. Now I have to do a little bit of trimming on the ends, so I'm going to thin this down a little bit more. And as you can see, the hatch is not going in nearly as deep as it did yesterday because the wood is dry. Just without even using the fire, it has dried a tremendous amount in one day. And I'll just do a little bit more. The little niches are to keep my hatchet from diving in too deep. If you don't put those little niches in there, it's going to be all of a sudden a crack starts, and if you give it one more whack, you've just spoiled. You're going to have a way shorter bow, or you just spoiled it, and you're going to start over again. Little baby swings. I'm not doing full swings anymore. I don't want it to go that deep. just shaving it off a little bit. And this has got a little piece sticking out right here. Depending on how the wood was running, I had to take more out of this part because it was spoiled here and it was going to create a weak spot. So we're going to build a fire, and I'm going to show you how to dry your bow stave quickly. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to make a small fire. These are out of twigs that are about 6 inches long. I've cleared the area back in a 3-foot diameter circle. There's no wind. It's right down to dirt. There's a little bit of debris here, but not much. It's pretty much right down to the dirt. Safe fire, you want to make sure you have a safe fire always. I made a little depression for my fire to lay in. The dirt is raked up around in a little mound so that when the wood falls, it falls into the center. Okay, striking your match. You're making a little teepee. Inside I've got all this little pieces from scrapings, even though they've only been scraped for an hour or so. They're plenty dry enough. There's all airspace around them to catch easily. I'm going to strike the match right where I'm going to. I'm not striking it way over here and bringing it over because I'll put the match out. So in order to make sure that everything lights, I'm striking it right here. Things are draw a little bit with some twigs. A small fire that's got flames coming off of it. I don't want a bonfire. All I want is a little fire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bow stave. It's still moist. You can feel the moisture in there. But I've thinned it out enough that it won't crack. I'm going to run it through the flames so that I can hold it for 3 seconds. If I run it more than that, it's too much. And I'm going to do this for about 45 minutes. One limb and then the other. Just running it through, just getting my wood drying. Not looking to cook it. Just over and over, turn it over, getting it to dry. Check it, make sure it's not too hot. Through, run it through, come back. Okay, it's getting a little warm. It's not too hot yet. Here, there. I've made my bow stave a few inches long. You can see the end has got a little bit dinged up here from beating it onto the log, chopping it. So I'll cut this part off just in case there's any little fractures in there. But for now, I'm leaving that just the way that it is. Just running it through. The wood's going to become dark as it takes the soot from the fire. It's a clean fire. There's almost no smoke. Laying them on, I set them down low. If I put my hand up high, that's where all the heat is, and I'm going to just drop them on. I want to have my hand down low where there is little heat. So what you want to do is, as you're putting the wood on, right here, drop, oops, right here, drop it in. And now I have enough wood I can continue running this through. You're looking to keep just a small little fire going here. Small fire. This is not the bonfire. This is a small fire. This is also my cooking fire. I like a small fire that I can sit next to and get warm instead of a fire that I have to sit 3 feet away from and try to be cooking because it's too hot. Small fire works just fine. There's an old saying that the white man would build a big fire and sit far away, and the native people builds a small fire and sits close. Your small fire is under control, and you can sit right next to it. And small fire, I don't have to worry about getting out of control. I've got the debris raked 3 feet away. If there was more wind, it would be raked 4 or 5 feet away. Okay, this is what, I can hold my hand on there 3 seconds, no problem. Turn it around, and do the bottom limb again. I'm going to continue doing this for 45 minutes or so. Okay, I've finished running the bow through the fire for about 45 minutes. And this is what it looks like now. It's dark. I'll be working this again tomorrow, scraping it, and it'll be down to new wood again. But the smoke makes it darker. You can see the rings on it if you look carefully. And I'll do more explaining tomorrow. This is the end of day 2, and this is what you got. Okay, thanks for watching.